Can everyone hear me? Yeah, great. Okay, thank you for the mic. I want to thank Marcel and Marisol and all the members of this community, Henry, Agnieszka, everyone I see at the seminar most Mondays, although the last few I've been traveling, and I'm very, very honored to be here, not least because this presentation is based on Chapter 3 of Design Rules 2, and that chapter actually got written in the process of preparing for the Eindhoven Keynote. So I thought, well, I'll just see it. Marcel said, just try doing that keynote again. And I went back, and it was so different from the chapter that I had to, this is a new presentation. So ecosystems and complementarity. I'm going to put those two concepts together with some others. But first, thank you, Marcel. But this is a brief advertisement coming soon to bookstores everywhere, Design Rules Volume 2. And that's what it looks like. If you ask afterwards, I'll explain to you what the cover signifies. So these things, I'm going to start with what's not new. Ecosystems, not a new idea. Groups of autonomous firms and individuals that create joint value. Platforms, also not new, at least 25 years old as a concept. Ecosystems are also about 25 years old. Technical systems that support the creation of options. Complements, also not new. Complements are different things that are worth more when used together than apart. So they are part of a larger system, and the being together creates additional value, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. And then open innovation, the purposeful use of knowledge flows between firms to accelerate innovation. Also about 25 years old, right, Henry? Not new. The concepts are all related, and it took us as a field a while to figure that out. And there was jealousy and let's see. So ecosystems are made up of complementors, all seeking value, thus innovating. Innovation in ecosystems requires coordination, knowledge flows among the members who are by definition separated from each other, not part of the same firm or organization. So that's open innovation. The clicker is not working. Platforms provide coordination through a central hub, and this can be more efficient than bilateral contracts or multilateral negotiations. So platforms are also related to. So ecosystems are the what, open innovation and platforms are the how. So ecosystems are groups of organization whose products or actions are complementary. And I want to give you a visual. This is a quote from Herbert Simon on organizations and markets. I want you to imagine a mythical visitor from Mars with a telescope that reveals social structures. The firms reveal themselves as solid green areas with faint interior contours, and market transactions show as red lines connecting the firms, forming a network in the spaces between them. And Simon, this is in 1991, says, organizations would be the dominant feature of the landscape as seen from space. The Martian would see large green blobs connected with red lines. It would not see, there are actually green dots in this field of red, but the resolution of the slide is such that you can't see the green dots, but that was what, if transactions were the fundamental unit of analysis in the economy, as Oliver Williamson claims, this is what you would see in the economy. Inside the green dots, work gets done, and that slide didn't come through for some reason. If you can imagine the green blobs, imagine like little networks inside the green blobs, networks of tasks and transfers between people inside the organizations. So ecosystems are meta-organizations, that is, groups of firms and individuals. And then once again, you can't see. But if you imagine back 4 slides ago, those green blobs connected by red lines, just imagine drawing circles around groups of those green blobs. And those circles can be overlapping. That would be one organization or several organizations or part of 2 different ecosystems. They can be non-overlapping. So you can have separated ecosystems, you can have overlapping ecosystems. Nothing that says a firm or an individual can't be part of many ecosystems, whereas they can only be, well, you can have many employers, but in that employment relationship, you can't have 2 masters. Again, here are the unsuccessful lines drawn around the green blobs. And you'll just have to use the creativity and imagination that we're all proven to have to imagine what that looks like. No empathy required. So ecosystems require coordination. They need to partners need to interact in order for the value proposition to materialize. That's Ron Adner. And the highest complementary surplus, that is the highest value added by bringing the members of the ecosystem together, does not arise through random action by unconnected parties. So there needs to be some kind of coordination, partner alignment, you can call it. Get the ducks to march in a row and herd the cats. So why did ecosystems and complementarity become important for management scholars at the turn of the 21st century? I want to show you some data. Let's look at history. This is the evolution of the US economy from 1917 to 2024. The circles are color-coded by industry. So tech is red, and Standard Oil is not tech, but it's oil and gas, so it's a different color of red. Tech is actually more pink than red, but not as, so you can see the largest firms. In 1917, US Steel, AT&T, Standard Oil, Bethlehem Steel, Armour & Company makes bologna. Swift & Company also makes bologna. And International Harvester, DuPont, so on. 1967, we now have the largest firm by market value is IBM. Next is AT&T, Eastman Kodak, GM. So one digital firm is the largest, but everybody else is still from the old economy, and most of these firms have been in existence, not IBM, but the others have been in existence since the early 20th century or the late 19th century. 2007, now we see a different picture. We see the top 5 firms by market value are what are now known as the big 5 tech firms. And then we have Berkshire Hathaway, which is a little bit weird because at that point, I think 20% of its value was due to its holdings of Apple. And then Johnson & Johnson, and then we get the old economy. And I updated this last Friday, and here you can see those check marks are tech firms. It's all tech, except for Saudi Aramco, which is a successor to Standard Oil. Except for the last 2, Berkshire Hathaway, which has been selling off Apple stock for over a year. So think about that. But I call it a hybrid. And then Tesla is also partly an auto company, but very, very much a computer company. And so it's a hybrid. Anyway, so there's really been a dramatic shift in the nature of the economy. because of digital technology. It's been a shift to digital ecology. And it's, when we speak of these things, they're digitally enabled ecosystem, digitally enabled platforms, digitally enabled complementarity, and digitally enabled open innovation. These are really important phenomena, and it's happened between 1997 and 2024. So it's last 30 years. So these were 4 different research streams, and until recently they were separate and very jealous of each other. Each was the focus of a different group of scholars, different methodologies, different tastes, etc. Platforms and ecosystems merged in 2018. There was a Strategic Management Society extension in Amsterdam called Platform Ecosystems, and all the practitioners use the term platform. If the practitioners are using the term, get used to it, it's going to be entrenched. Ecosystems and complementarity merged that same year, 2018. A paper by Jacobides, Sinamo, and Gaver and SMJ became one of the most highly cited papers because it talked about complementarities of different types. And then open innovation ecosystems began merging, I think, in Rome, WOIC in 2019. There was a keynote by Annabelle Gaver, who does both platform and ecosystem research, and Lucas Falke. The merging is continuing to doubt. These 4 streams are now almost indistinguishable. And so I want to ask you what creates the need for ecosystems, open innovation, and platforms. I'm going to propose to you that it is something called the spectrum of complementarity. And this is a different concept of complementarity than in the Jacobides et al. And following papers. Let me just say, economists hate complementarities. They get in the way of the models, and it's hard to do general equilibrium when you've got complementarities going on. So spoils their theories, messes up the models, makes equilibrium indeterminate because there's this surplus going on. No unique way to split the surplus, and the surplus is the joint value minus the sum of the separate values. So the opposite of complementarity is separability, and it's preferences, goods, and technologies, and it's assumed everywhere in classic economics. Yet, technology is all about complement. What's a technical system but a bunch of complementary parts brought together? So the combination of multiple technologies is different and often much better than each of them, than any of them taken separately. One thing, so the definition is one thing makes another thing more valuable. That's called supermodularity. It's a term due to Milgram and Roberts. I highly recommend the 1985 paper. Jacobides, Sinamo, and Gaver also use the term supermodularity. It's the creation of a complementary surplus, which is what I argue in Chapter 3 of Design Rules 2. And this is a figure taken from Milgram and Roberts. That's the value of 2 inputs. And if it's there, there's a 1, and if it's not there, there's a 0. So that's input Y, and this is input X, each alone. And this is the value of X and Y together, V11. And this is the difference between V11, the complementary bundle, and the sum of the 2 individual bundles. So if you could focus on this area, that lined length, that's the complementary surplus. And we're going to get to why it's important. So degrees of complementarity are inversely proportional to the complementary surplus. So at the very top, there's no complementarity. The sum of V1, 0 and V01 is the same as the 2 taken together. They're not super additive. They're not super modular. Then they're weak. So imagine this little, this sliding down. This is on a slider. The important thing is this is a continuum. This is a spectrum. Whereas in Jacobides et al., they have categories, and they don't think about changing the degrees of things. Changing it into degrees makes you able to judge how important the complementarities are. So just bring the slider down, bring that down, and as it goes down, the complementary surplus gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's semi-strong, strong, and very super strong. Super strong means two things are not worth anything apart. You have to bring them together to have anything. So what causes the complementary surplus to increase or decrease? Economic forces. So centripetal forces favor the integration of technology and the merging of organizations, bringing things together. Centrifugal forces favor modularization of technology and the splitting of organizations. So you get things breaking apart. For an ecosystem to survive, the forces must be in balance. The things driving you to become one big firm must be balanced off by forces making you want to be separate. And those forces can be characterized. So centripetal driving you together, interdependence, synchronization, that's Chandler's theory. Hard to observe effort, agency costs, that's Jensen and Meckling. Co-specialized investments, that's Williamson. All of those things reward having a single hierarchical decision maker who can make it happen. But centrifugal forces go in the other direction. Big one, dispersed knowledge and diverse preferences. Not all smart people work for you. That's a famous quote by Bill Joy. Modularity, a way of splitting things apart. Network effects, valuing somebody out of your own space because of a network that is also a centrifugal force. So here's the theory. Up at the top, where the complementary surplus is very low, you can have independent firms with no direct coordination. At the bottom, where everything has to happen and you need to make it happen, you have single firm control is rewarded, coordination via unified governance, direct authority, and hierarchy. And in the middle, you have a very large space today where ecosystems that coordinate via prices, bilateral contracts, multilateral negotiations, systems integration, and at last but not least, platforms. So this is how the spectrum at the top, degrees of complementarity. This is a summary slide. In the middle, centrifugal versus centripetal versus centrifugal. The balance of forces is in the middle there. And then forms of organization that are rewarded by these conditions in the technology and the environment, single firm, ecosystems, independent firms, and that should be, brings us, think of a solar system with lots of bodies in relation to each other, being brought together by gravity and driven apart by momentum and movement. And you can have ecosystems, and platform ecosystems are nested structures reflecting different degrees of complementarity between technological components. So think of the technological components as being the potentially separate things in this imaginary solar system. Some of them are being highly attracted to each other. They will end up in the same firm. Others are less highly attracted, but in relationships, circling around each other. And you could have nested structures. So you could have the Earth and the Moon, or Jupiter and its moons, Saturn and its moons. You can have the whole solar system, and the whole solar system is in a galactic cluster, and the galactic cluster is in the galaxy, and there are many galaxies. So once again, ecosystems and platform systems are complex systems, so we need a theory of bottlenecks. The concept of bottlenecks is complex because there are two types, but I'm out of time. So I will stop. But here's my promise. I have a promise. In this slide deck, there are more slides. Marcel said, you have a lot of slides. There are more slides. And the more slides are about bottlenecks. So if you want to know about bottlenecks, ask me for the slide deck, or ask, don't get this slide deck because it's not somehow coming out, but my slides work. So I want to thank you. If you want to learn more about technical and request slides, and you'll see some pointers, bringing things full circle. I've tried to demonstrate a new approach to open innovation and strategy rooted in the following concepts: the spectrum of complementarity, ecosystem dynamics, and the pursuit of bottlenecks, both technical and strategic, but not today.
Thank you so much.